Ah, here we are. I was actually a little behind schedule. I was hoping to be cooking already. But nonetheless, I guess now is as good a time as any to start with what else but bacon. Hmm. There's really no better way to start cooking in cast iron, is there? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our informal cast iron cooking Q&A session and chat. This is really done more than anything else to have some fun tonight, to help everybody get away from some of the craziness going on pretty much in the rest of the world. I mean, I know some events happened in the national news today, and I'm sure that's all anybody is talking about, and that's why I'll say that we enforce a no politics rule here on the Cast Iron Cooking Group, and we are here especially to relax, de-stress, have some fun, and talk about cast iron. It's almost as though this was designed to distract you from the craziness going on in the real world right now. Well, guess what? Yes, it is. So no need to be shy about it. Let's just come in and have some fun and talk about, well, cast iron. So, like, for instance, what do we got going here with this bacon? Well, what else? We've got a vintage Wagner ware cast iron chicken fryer or a deep skillet. I can't lift it up, so I can't show you the bottom, but this is an unmarked Wagner. This is a number 9 size Wagner, not a number 8. And it's nice and big and nice and deep, which will be especially good for all of the meat we're cooking in. We'll be cooking in this, that is, and you can tell actually this is a Wagner. That was about the only one of their vintage pans that had this particular kind of shape with a round hole, as far as I know. So this is one of those pans you can actually recognize from the handle shape. That is, of course, if you know your stuff about vintage cast iron. And I am hoping again that people do show up and comment. So this is going to take a few minutes, not to worry. And I can turn up the heat now a little bit. We are rendering ourselves up some bacon. This is going to be the first step in a Tater Tot Casserole. Because, hey, why not? We're going to start out with bacon, then we will move on to the ground beef. Tater Tot Casserole is really, pretty much the same as, it's a shepherd's pie, basically, except that instead of mashed potatoes on the top, you use tater tots. So we'll be doing this in the same manner as a shepherd's pie. Maybe a little bit different in that I'm actually gonna be making this a nice and thick bottom with a very thick gravy to go with it. I've seen some recipes that say to use cream of mushroom soup, and there's nothing wrong with using that in, well, pretty much any dish you want to use it in. I guess this again is an influence from a girlfriend of mine who inspired me to learn to cook. A couple of things she did not like were, one was using cream of anything in her dishes. And she kind of inspired me to stay away from that, even though there's nothing wrong with it. And that's why instead I'm going to be making a gravy from scratch instead of using canned cream of mushroom. The other thing she did not like using in her dishes is ketchup. But that's a whole nother story. This is going to have a lot of ground beef, and of course, hey, if you want to use ketchup with your ground beef, you can certainly do so. Anyway, I should turn this up a little bit more yet, so that we can really render this bacon out. Hi there. Hey, Otto Powers. Hi from Kansas. Lucy Washam Smith. Hello from Alabama. Good to see you here tonight. Like I said, come in, relax, de-stress. And again, we are here not just to make some tater tot casserole, but also to ask and answer questions about, well, cast iron cooking in general. And anybody really is feel free to ask questions. We've got a frequently asked questions list on the Cast Iron Cooking Group, but That's why it's called an FAQ, because people are asking those questions all the time. You know, the ones about like, what oils to season my cast iron, and should I use tomatoes or metal utensils? After all, you notice I'm using a wooden spatula right now in this cast iron bare metal pot frying pan. And there's really nothing wrong with using metal utensils. For some types of dishes, in fact, it's probably better to use a metal utensils, like making eggs, for instance, so that you can actually slide it under the eggs. In this case, I don't mind using wooden because, well, it's a little quieter. You know, you don't hear the scrape, scrape, scrape and the bang, bang, bang of metal against metal. So, hi from Texas, Cody Marie Rice. Well, so far we got people from the South, and the Midwest. I guess that's no surprise either where cast iron is concerned. No, somebody's asking if I should close the window. I'd say no, because we're going to be having some smoke in here. Well, yeah, my roommate, okay. But
somebody.
yeah, but again...
I heard you say come in and relax.
Yes.
So, would you like to take a break?
Not yet. It's only just started.
Oh, give me a break.
Yeah.
Break me off a piece.
Shit.
I share it with everybody else, but, you
Yeah.
know, you'd have to reach through the TV to get it.
Oh, and by the way, no, she was not paid to do that little product plug there.
Although Kit Kat wants to pay me. I'll take my payment in Kit Kat.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, as I said, you know, we were just starting out. I'm actually running a little behind schedule here. I was hoping to have this part done already, but, well, since it isn't, we will work our way through it. I may just not be able to reveal the finished Tater Tot Casserole, and that my intention is to put it all together and put it in the oven, but then, of course, we're going to have to wait for it to cook anywhere from like half an hour to 45 minutes. Depending on how long this chat goes, I mean, after all, it is a Friday night, well, who knows? I know, of course, there are a lot of people who have better things to do on a Friday night than hang out on YouTube, but hey, some people don't, and besides, if you just keep this playing in the background, well, again, there's nothing wrong with that either. Yes. Bacon and cast iron. There are few things that go together better than bacon and cast iron. Except maybe, oh, I don't know, cornbread and cast iron, perhaps. But, yeah, the cornbread, well, not tonight. I have made cornbread live before, but this time our dessert's going to be a little bit different. And, of course, you know, there have been so many bacon jokes going around. I mean, it's hard. I'm sure any bacon joke I told you would probably heard before. Like, for instance, you know how Jamaican is the perfect language. Why? Because bacon and beer can are pronounced the same way. Beer can! And this is meant in an entirely positive way, folks, so please, no bad accusations about that. Just having a little fun, and I'm not trying to insult anyone. And hey, this bacon is actually finally starting to render up a little bit, so we are making progress here. From the looks of it, maybe only a couple more minutes of this. Okay, other than that, as I said, we got ourselves a vintage Wagner here. Right next to this, on the other hand, we have a more modern cast iron pan, which I'll be using a little later. And that is the, this is a Lodge Blacklock 10-inch skillet. This one they just came out with last year. This is part of their new Blacklock series of cast iron pans, which they designed especially to do more in the fashion of the old vintage cast iron, in that it's very light and very thin, very easy to handle. It may not be as smooth as this Wagner here, but there's still nothing wrong with using it whatsoever. It is still quite non-stick, as anyone who's used one of their Blacklocks will tell you. I guess I should also say no, Lodge is not paying me for that either. I enjoy using Lodge cast iron, modern and vintage. It seems like most of my modern cast iron is Lodge, most of my vintage is not. I don't know, maybe because I can get modern Lodge cast iron. we are getting into some nice bacon grease here. Bacon grease. Okay, I'm not sure. I hope I'm not lagging behind on the comments here. As I said, folks are free to please chime in, and as I said, you really can ask whatever questions you want in regards to cast iron. I do not claim to be an expert. I happen to be one of the administrators of the cast iron cooking group, but it's only because I was in the right place at the right time. However, I do love cooking, and as far as answering questions go, I am much better at really letting questions be thrown at me, whatever you want, rather than going through some kind of a presentation here. So even though I do work at a cubicle job for a corporation, I am not the type of person who can get in front of an audience and do a presentation with slides and pointers and all that. Please feel free to hit me with any questions you may want. I'd say we're probably getting to the point, especially since this is nice and hot now, where we can throw in the next step, and that will be about a pound of ground beef. I figured this is probably going to make more than enough grease, in fact, and I'll probably have to drain some of it out. That's alright. If we have to, we have to. Ah, yes. Frying up some pigs and cows here. This is truly an American dish. Even though it comes from shepherd's pie, which was really pretty much a British dish. And of course, as you know, shepherd's pie was actually made with lamb, and you can't call it shepherd's pie technically if you make it with ground beef, even though everybody does. I mean, after all, shepherds, they don't herd cows. Shepherds herd sheep, which is why the technical name for a ground beef shepherd's pie is a cottage pie. Whatever you call it, when it's made right, of course, it comes out delicious. So far, so good. I can see we've got some people viewing here. In fact, quite a few people are showing up. So I must be behind on these comments. I mean, for whatever reason, I am not seeing the comments beyond "Hi from Texas." I apologize for that, folks. I'm sure there are more comments coming in. I'm going to have to see about that. Give me one very quick second to see what we can do about these comments here. Ah, there we are. Okay, I'm sorry for the delay. Alright, you've been a great help. Well, thank you. Hi, on a Saturday morning from Newcastle, Australia. Emma Jade. Well, thank you very much. Nice timing for my beef skillet. That's just arrived yesterday. From the most distance. How does chainmail work? Is it like a scrubby? Well, there we go. We've got a question for you. You must be talking about a chainmail scrubber. And yes, they are like a scrubby in that you can just simply use it to scrub your scrub your cast iron. The nice thing about this is it does a great job. It does not have any sharp edges on it, so it is not really likely to damage the seasoning of your cast iron. So that chainmail scrubber there, in fact, I received as a Christmas present back in something like 2012. I've been using it almost every day for almost 8 years. It still looks almost brand new, but then again, I do try to treat mine nice. Now I understand why people keep saying cooked bacon. I'm amazed at the amount of fat that comes out of that. No, that's true. This is commercial bacon, yes. I did buy it at the supermarket. I will say that. I have made homemade bacon a couple of times. I even have some slab bacon that I got from a local butcher. It's in the fridge right now. But there's nothing wrong with using good old bacon from the supermarket. After all, it is bacon. And as I said, when you get too much grease in this pan, all you have to do is drain it out. And I think I'm getting close to that point right now, in fact. Well, maybe not. Because, as I said, the other thing I'm going to do is make a gravy with it. So rather than draining it out, I think all we have to do is, well, actually, maybe I should, just so that we can thoroughly cook the ground beef. So, sorry for the delay here. Here we are. Do my best here to manage this. There we go. Fair amount of, yeah, there is a fair amount of grease coming out. There we go, that's better. Careful there, that's hot. And now it's nice and hot and not as wet. No comment. But anyway, this is good. I'd say maybe only a couple more minutes of this and I'll be able to go on to the next step. So yeah, this casserole is not taking too long, thank goodness. Let me check a couple more of these comments here. I'm sorry for that delay previously. Well, it looks like we are still down at the comments at this moment. But that's alright, it's still early on. As I said, I do encourage anybody to ask questions and also anybody at all to answer questions. I am not claiming to be the only person here who allowed to answer questions. I also do not claim to be an authority, and there are other people who have a lot more experience in this. I've been cooking now for just about 10 years, and I'm very proud of that. There are, of course, folks here who have been cooking their entire lives, and so have their whole families. So they have a lot more experience to draw upon than I am. Also, I am not a professional chef. There are many, many things I do not know, and I'm still looking to learn, and looking forward to learning, in fact. The Cast Iron Cooking Group really has been a great part of my cooking education, and I'm very grateful to the group for that reason, which I guess is also why I love cooking in cast iron so much. I've had a fair amount of experience with it now. Anyway, so far so good. Because we've got all this bacon in here, I'm not sure if we're going to need much salt. So I won't do too much salt. Probably enough. Gotta throw in some pepper. Alright. Things are looking good so far. Now I think we're at the point, in fact, we can throw in the next step, which is some onions. In this case, red onions that I had in the fridge. And now we're just going to cook it until these onions get nice and soft. So far, so good. That very poorly butchered pronunciation of onions was me trying to sound Cajun, of which I'm not. I actually live in New England, so I'm about as far from Cajun country as you can get. I don't think I've been lucky enough to visit Louisiana yet, unfortunately. I have been to Alabama, I have been to Mississippi, I have been to Texas, but not yet Louisiana. I've also been to Tennessee a few times. Nonetheless, we've got a lot of great cuisine up here in the north, too, so I mean, while Southern cuisine is famous, you can't go wrong really with New England cuisine, especially when you get to things like a New England seafood boil and lobster and clam chowder and our Boston baked beans, which I love making as well. Alright, let me check it again. So far, so good. Alright. Things are coming along rather nicely, I think. I've been told that I tend to stir a little bit too much, and maybe I should just let this rest. I don't know, I guess it's a nervous habit I've picked up. Nonetheless, here we go now with some onions, some bacon. So from here, let me quickly grab the next essential ingredient. Thank you for waiting, folks. That would be just a little bit of garlic powder. Garlic powder. I could use fresh garlic. I do have fresh garlic, but I was throwing this together in kind of a hurry tonight, so break out the old garlic powder to go with it. Hey, what's cooking? Hi, Candace Wilfong. This is the beginning of a tater tot casserole. So, which again is really no more than a shepherd's pie with tater tots instead of mashed potatoes on top. So of course the really important part though is laying out the base. We don't want just the top to be tasty and the bottom to be bland, which is why we're throwing these things in. And things are looking pretty good right now. I think at this point we can probably add the rest of the liquid back in. And the reason for that is, again, we're going to actually make a gravy base in here, so we do want more liquid. I'm glad I didn't get rid of that. Also, it looks like we're at the point here that liquid now is being nicely absorbed, or it's being reduced, because with it, even though we have the same amount of liquid, it's no longer flooding it. So far, so good then. In that case, we may actually have to throw in some more. Alright, let me very quickly then. I always seem to be coming to these things less prepared than I would like. So, I will say once again that, again, folks are free. This is a pretty much a Q&A session and a chat. So, I mean, even though I'm making a particular dish with a Wagner chicken fryer, feel free to ask any questions you might have, you know, about cast iron, and please feel free to answer any of the questions you see. You know, and I mean, there are the usual comments about, or questions about seasoning cast iron and enameled cast iron, and what's the right, well, I don't know, what type of wine goes with cornbread, things like that. Which is why, again, folks are encouraged pretty much to speak up and ask any questions they want. And while you're doing that, I'm going to be starting a gravy in this, and then we'll be almost done at this point. So not with the whole dish, but with this base here for the casserole. So as I said, it's really not taking that long. I guess that's one reason why I'm coming to enjoy these chats here, because they do seem to make the time go by much faster. Come on already. Why is this thing having trouble now? It's always something I should have done in another time. Oh well. Let's throw in not some paper. Come on. Rat. Sorry about the delay. Now this is the type of thing you never see on those professional cooking shows. Anyway, butter. Because things go better with butter. Let me put the rest of this away. Alright, now we can get down to it. And once this melts, we will start a roux. Start her up. pretty good stuff in itself, I will say that. And what else do we have here, if anything? Okay. Amazed with the amount of fat. Oh yeah, that's right. You'd said that before, Emma. With the amount of fat that comes out of bacon. Well, that's one reason why they like starting a lot of cast iron dishes with bacon. Not only does it taste good, but the fat is useful. You know, useful for cooking, for flavor, for making things like gravy. And of course, when it's all over, you save the bacon grease and use it again another time. All right. Now that the butter is just about gone, we can thicken it up a little bit. Start adding some flour. There we go. That's, oh, I don't know, maybe about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of flour, so that should be good for a starter. All we'll need to do is cook the flour so that it no longer has that flour taste. And things are looking good already. Oh yeah. And again, so far in here we've got about 1/2 pound of bacon, about 1 pound of ground beef, some diced up red onions, salt, pepper, and garlic powder, and we've thrown in a little bit of flour, which I am scraping at so that it doesn't burn. And we've got our roux under construction here. In fact, I can probably throw in just a tad more flour, and then we'll be able to add liquid to it. That's probably more than enough, in fact. Well, we'll deal with it. There we go. It's definitely getting dry enough or thick enough. That's another nice reason why the best roux is made in cast iron, with the way it sticks to the bottom and you get to scrape it off with your spatula. If you tried doing this with any kind of non-stick pan at all, you would of course ruin the pan. This is why a lot of people, especially again in Cajun country, they keep a cast iron pan especially to make their roux, and for good reason. A few decades of this and you will have the most amazing gravy. Hopefully shorter than a few decades, though. Alright, now that we've done that, always something. Oh, you Sorry for stepping away and leaving these dead moments. It's only because I am not as prepared as I should be. Of course, I'm doing all this myself. Now we just add some milk. And we've got the base for a gravy coming up. Yeah, in fact, if I wanted to, I could even use this for biscuits and gravy. But it's not going to be biscuits and gravy. It is instead going to be a casserole, like a pie. And that's one thing about cast iron, is that making gravy in cast iron, while there really is no better way to do it, but if you're not careful, the gravy will come out very, very thick. Of course, in this case, this is what we want. We want a thick gravy, thicker than the kind you might get on a biscuits and gravy. because, as I said, this is going to be the bottom for the casserole. So better for it to be more solid and less, liquid. Things are looking good already. In fact, let me throw this milk back in the fridge. Hopefully this will be the last time I have to step away. And we're off to a good start. In fact, now, from here, I'm going to throw in the last ingredient. And that would be some mushrooms, mushroom pieces. Chopped up some cremini mushrooms, or baby bellas. So that this is going to be like almost like cream of mushroom. Milk and mushroom, or gravy and mushroom. And of course, this whole thing is going to actually cook in the oven, so no need to worry. Everything here is going to be thoroughly cooked. Definitely. In fact, we are already getting to the point where I think we can just get ready to add the next layer and actually make this a layered dish like a pie. So we've got our first step here. And then from here, there we go. Now we have a nice layer coming on. In fact, I think I can even turn off the heat so that I don't burn the bottom. There's a start. Now from here, again, I'm cheating and using canned stuff. There's nothing wrong with canned stuff. So our next step is we can throw a layer of corn on the top. Because, as you know, shepherd's pie, that's pretty much how it goes. The meat, the corn, and then the potatoes. Finally, from there, here, I think we will do the first layer of cheese. Oh, do we have more comments? That would be nice. And, okay. Like I said, I hope folks are enjoying themselves here. I'm very much encouraging comments on this, either on how terrible a cook I am, or if you have other questions in regards to this being a vintage Wagner chicken fryer, or what we're making here, which again is... Ugh. Great. Now I gotta grab the scissors, don't I? Thank you. What we're making here, which again is just simply Tater Tot Casserole. That's why in this case we're doing one layer of cheese now. Because there's no such thing as too much cheese.
Nope. Just like there's never too much steak.
Absolutely not. And then from there, now we get to add in our tater tots. And yes, it is okay to cook them frozen. You don't have to thaw them out. Because it's going to go in a 375 degree oven. That is definitely going to thaw them out and cook them. Which is also, in addition to all that, we're doing this uncovered. So we also don't want to burn them. No shortage here. I wonder if we can try to be fancy, so to speak, and put a row in. And besides, will probably allow us to use up more space if we try to be neat. Alright, the trick, of course, is both being fancy and neat, and at the same time fast because I really don't want to bore anyone here, just laying out row after row of tater tots. Oh, as if that's a bad thing. I mean, who doesn't love tater tots? So this really doesn't take that long anyway, does it? I mean, after all, we've already made this much progress. Thank you for your patience, everybody watching. Tater tots, one of those things that everybody loves. Kids fight over them, so do adults. I don't know what it is about tater tots that everybody loves so much. I mean, everybody loves potatoes. Everybody loves French fries. But when it comes to tater tots, no one can say no. And hey, this is turning out pretty nice, if I may say so. I hope I'm not bragging. And I also hope the quality of the sound is decent on this video. I mean, the microphone is right here. I can only hope you're hearing things okay. Which is why I'm afraid, again, I am looking for comments here. I would like to be able to answer a few other questions. I mean, I did say something about a chainmail scrubber. And hey, this is actually, again, I like this. Maybe it's because, you know, as they say, the human eye loves to look for patterns, which is why we find patterns especially pleasing. Like this. And bam. There we are. Off to a good start there. Now finally, of course, we top this with more cheese. Huh? And there we go. Layer upon layer. Because this is much like an ogre. It has layers. And with that, you know, I think Facebook's things are lagging. Oh, well, yeah, that's probably true. We can blame Facebook. It's easy to blame Facebook, but they probably do deserve it. Thank you. I appreciate your watching. Nonetheless, looks like we are all set here. This is not going to be the end of the video, at least not quite yet. But we're off to a nice start because all we have to do now is pop this in the oven. And in about 30 to 45 minutes, we will be done. The oven is set at 375 degrees for the record. Now that we've done that, let's bring over the next pan, shall we? This one, as I think I mentioned earlier, is not a vintage, although in 50 years or so it'll be vintage. And I do think people will be collecting these 50 years from now, because this is the Lodge Blacklock pan that they came out with just last year. And yeah, if the sheen looks a little odd, it looks like I have, in fact, burned off some of the seasoning here. Lodge makes a big deal about triple seasoning their pans, and I have to say that part is, unfortunately, still overrated. However, this is still a wonderful cast iron pan. It is nice and light. Of course, it's cast iron, it's durable. And what they say is true, actually. The handle is much less hot than the centerpiece here, than the cooking surface. It's because of the design of the handle here, meant to actually cause a lot of the heat to radiate off. I'm betting they technically borrowed this from a couple of the newer cast iron makers who've been making their pans like that. They probably came out with the Blacklock line especially to compete with those newer, smaller ones, you know, like Finex, which they bought out, or Stargazer, or Field, or Smithy, or Butterpap. I love the fact that so many of these have... let me see. Oh, by the way, comments. Did you put that on the middle rack or higher up? You know, I actually put it on the bottom rack. I'm thinking that should be okay because, after all, the bottom is entirely meat. And I don't think it's going to have really a burned crust on the bottom that way. Be that as it may, I mean, of course, if you want to put it on the middle rack, I'd say it'll probably give more even heat as well. Especially since what I am trying to do, really more than anything else, is cook it thoroughly and make sure the tater tots are roasted and especially not burned. Also thawed out. Um, what was I saying before? Oh yeah, that's right. That this is a Blacklock, and that all of these smaller cast iron companies are coming out with it over the last decade or so. And the reason for that, of course, is because cast iron has been making quite a comeback. Um, I give a lot of the credit to that to, of all things, celebrity chefs, because you figure that, like it or not, and I have to say I don't follow the reality cooking shows, but there's no denying that those reality cooking shows and the Food Network and celebrity chefs, like Gordon Ramsay and their ilk, they have definitely changed the face of cooking, and that cooking is no longer woman's work. Yeah, I know. That's been a thing for since the beginning of time, but it's still been perceived until only the last couple of decades or so. Now it has become much more, I guess, guy or macho for a guy to put on an apron and get in the kitchen and get his hands dirty and start cooking something wonderful. And the ethics of that are probably a debate that should be held for another time. However, point being is that these celebrity chefs, male and female, have really popularized home cooking again. And what do every one of those celebrity chefs push? Every single one of them pushes how great cast iron is. You always hear them saying how great cast iron is for searing meats, for making burgers, steaks, cornbread, and a whole bunch of other things. And a number of them, of course, had their very own personal lines of cast iron cookware, which they're trying to sell to us. All of that has definitely taken hold, and because of this, cast iron has come roaring back as a must-have in every kitchen, which comes down to the newer companies trying to jump on the bandwagon and take a piece of the market share for themselves. And best of luck to them, because the competition, of course, is what will keep this thing going. Oy, so when I try, okay. Anyway, the reason why I'm heating up the Blacklock here is because while that other dish is in the oven, I hope to put a nice dessert together. Nothing really fancy. We're just gonna have some fried apples and top that with vanilla ice cream. So, I mean, you really can't go wrong with fried apple pie filling, can you? Especially when you make it from scratch.
If you have to.
Yes?
A little tip that I've found helpful when I'm doing it on the stovetop
Yes?
is if you do a little water because it'll steam it,
Okay.
that a little bit of cornstarch because it'll make the sauce nice and thick. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. I will definitely have to remember that.
Is that on camera?
No. Okay. Anyway.
That would have been.
Yeah, so we've got the Blacklock pan here, and now that we have this, let's put this to some use. I'm going to have to get that butter back out. Here's the rest of the butter. Don't want to get any bits of paper in here. That is annoying, but there we go. Speaking of bits of paper, there we go. Well, at least it caught that before and not afterwards. So this is about half a stick of butter here, which is about a quarter cup. Melting ourselves some butter. I'm melting! Oh, what a world! What a world! Yeah, except in this case, yet again, your melting is going to give us something delicious. Because a pan full of butter is a thing of beauty. And a thing of beauty is a joy forever. So, alright, well, yeah, I know what you said about, unfortunately, the comments seem to be lagged thanks to Facebook. Oh well, all I can do then is keep blabbering at the mouth here, and I do hope folks appreciate it. And I also hope they appreciate what we are doing now, which is, of course, frying ourselves up some apple slices. Now, I sliced these with an apple corer, one of those spiral apple corers, which are really fun to use. And then from there, I also previously coated each of these with sugar. There are about 5 apples here, and I used about 5 teaspoons of sugar. Each time I finished an apple and sliced it, I sprinkled about a teaspoon of sugar on it. And this is not going to be all of it either. So, once these things start to soften, I'm going to throw in, well, I guess the usual spices you might see in an apple pie. But, as I said, I want to get these things nice and soft, which is really not going to take long. These are Granny Smith apples, so they are much more firm, and they're the best apples you can have for baking. And much better than, say, for instance, Red Delicious apples, which are terrible. They are worthless. I mean, about the only thing they're good for is that, yeah, they feed them to kids, and that's about it. When you get older, Red Delicious apples just taste too, ew, it tastes too sweet. And of course, if you try cooking with Red Delicious apples, they turn, yeah, they are gritty too. Yes. And of course, if you try cooking with Red Delicious apples, they turn into mush, which might be good. I'm sorry?
Cortlands are another good baking apple.
Oh yes, Cortlands, which I probably should have gotten in addition, but hey, these Granny Smiths should work just fine.
Oh, Granny Smith is delicious.
Mm-hmm. Once these things start to soften, of course, I'm betting that if I don't stir it around so much, they will soften. Alright, so the point being, of course, is that we're essentially going to make a nice hot apple pie type of filling, except that instead of putting it in a pie this time, we're just simply going to put it in bowls and top it with vanilla ice cream. Yeah, I know, essentially it's an apple pie without the crust. Well, okay, so it's an apple pie without the crust. So what's so bad about that? Mm-hmm. Yes, we do have crackers. Oh, yes, it's a side... oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I didn't hear her. She said it's a side at Cracker Barrel. Alright, and from here, I think I will just throw in the rest of the sugar and make a sauce. Okay. That means from here, we're just going to wing it, really. It's not like we need to use a measuring cup. We've got to put in a whole bunch of brown sugar, which of course you have to keep in an airtight container here. Nobody likes petrified, fossilized brown sugar. Oh yeah, this is going to help coat these apples nicely. And then from here, I have one little secret ingredient, well, 2 secret ingredients, I think, that are going to help kick this up a notch. One of which is, of course, booze. Because you can't go wrong putting booze in your apple pie. You know, just the other day was my very first time trying that stuff, by the way. Captain Morgan's so-called apple spiced rum. And yeah, that stuff is pretty darn good, I will say that. It gave a really nice tang to the pie. So now at this point, all we're going to have to do, again, is let this thicken into a sauce. And in addition, of course, to the spices we've thrown in already, you know, the brown sugar and the rum, now we get to add a couple of other things. And that would be, one of which, of course, would be cinnamon. Because, you know, you really can't have an apple pie without cinnamon. You don't want it to drown and taste only like cinnamon, but you expect that wonderful cinnamon flavor to go with your apples. Also gives it some nice color, as you can see. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to thicken this, though. Well, that's where the cornstarch comes in, I think. Not to worry. So far, this is looking and smelling pretty good. And then one little secret ingredient I like to use. That is ground cardamom. Gives it a nice little tang. Not to mention having a wonderful scent as well. There we go. So everything is bubbling nicely. In a few minutes or so, this should indeed reduce. And then we will have ourselves a nice dessert of fried apples. Oh yeah, and somebody says I make mine with mixed vegetables. I will have to, and that is Tom Steinoff. I'll have to try with just corn next time. My favorite cast iron is a Wagner 1088, even though it's a spinner. I use it on my glass top stove. It works fine. Well, actually, I'm glad to hear that. You know, I have an electric stove top, but I am deliberately avoiding any home for rent that may have a glass stove top because, yeah. I mean, yes, you can use cast iron on a glass stovetop. Many people, including yourself, have demonstrated that. But there is a risk involved because if you drop it, it can shatter. And then, I mean, shatter the stovetop. And then, well, you are really SOL. I would love to move to an apartment again where I can cook with gas. I have not had the opportunity yet. Here in Massachusetts, of course, rent is in general going through the roof, and about the only places it seems like that still have gas stoves are in, well, let's just say the more urban areas of the big city. And I'm not going to get into that anymore. Nonetheless, yes, less desirable real estate, or what you find on that real estate. And no, okay, but nonetheless, we are starting to see it. It is starting to thicken a little bit. I mean, if you can see this carefully, you can see that, you know, this is actually starting to show little, what do you call them, rivulets? That it's not simply behaving like water. It is starting to thicken a little bit into more of a syrup, which, of course, is what we want. We could throw just a little bit of cornstarch into it as well. Maybe that might not be a bad idea. Only a little bit. Don't need to use a lot. Where is that? There it is. So from here, only a wee bit of cornstarch. Whoa, yeah, a wee bit. Do that every time. Oh well. Happens every time. But that's alright. It will mix in. I should have known that was going to happen. I mean, after all, like I said, it happens every time. I should have prepared for it. Oh well. I'm sure this will show up on one of those fail video channels soon enough. Well, feel free. If it gets people to come over to the cast iron cooking group, plug, I'm more than happy to do that. Meanwhile, though, it is actually thickening, and we're getting ourselves a nice sauce now. Piping hot, too. But now we are getting somewhere. Now we definitely have. The apples are softening. And they're getting coated with our sauce. I can even turn this off. I've just turned off the stovetop. Because after all, the cast iron will stay hot for quite a while after that. And now I'm stirring it especially again so that it doesn't burn. But hey, like I said, if you wanted to, you could take a pie filling, fill it up with this stuff, and then just bake it at like 400 degrees for maybe, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, and you've got yourself a full-blown pie. But as it is, what we do have is a nice dessert. Yep, it's definitely thickening up now. So at this point, I'd have to say we are probably ready. It's so hot, in fact, I'm going to have to cool it off. You know, like maybe topping it with ice cream. But there we go. We've got ourselves a dessert that I think kids would probably go gaga for. Some nice fried apples. Okay. Just heard a bump upstairs. The upstairs neighbors must be doing something nice on a Friday night. But nonetheless, alright, well, I can't believe we've been going for almost an hour already. And we've made a couple of dishes. Let me check that casserole. Not quite yet, unfortunately. I would probably give that in the oven maybe about another, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. So, I don't think we're going to be here, unfortunately, at that time. But I will be sure to show a shot of the finished casserole. Meanwhile, nonetheless, I guess this is a nice thing is that of being grown-ups is that we get to have our dessert first. Okay. And that means there's one and the other. Alright, the heat is off, so we will just let this cool off. And the final step will be to do break open a nice cheap container of ice cream. Yeah, this is the part where they usually break out their fancy gourmet made from scratch vanilla bean ice cream. Yeah, that stuff's... Yeah, that's true. As my roommate just said, you know, the best vanilla is usually the cheap stuff. And I'm not going to disagree with that either. Okay, no more product plugs for them. Which means now... I'm just taking a moment here and quickly heating this up with hot water because, of course, you know, that's the best way to serve ice cream. And there we go, which means now we get to just put it right in, and it comes right out. So here comes the money shot. There's a nice dessert. It's melting nicely too. Maybe one more scoop and then we're good. Cast iron fried apples with vanilla ice cream to go with our tater tot casserole. This is going to be quite a nice Friday night dinner, and I very much appreciate everybody who came here to watch. I apologize. I mean, as I said, I know I was asking for comments because I would really like this to be a two-way Q&A session, but as somebody says, Facebook seems to be lagging tonight, so it just doesn't seem to be happening. Okay, well, nonetheless, we have managed to while away the last hour, and I hope folks have enjoyed themselves. And anyway, this is still going to show up on the Cast Iron Cooking Group, so please post your comments there. Let's see what happens. Right now, though, I can only thank everybody very much for showing up here, and I hope you've enjoyed this. So, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again on the Cast Iron Cooking Group.
Well, before you cancel.
Yes, before I cancel.
Put all the ingredients in while they were hot.
Yes, I did.
You know what? It shouldn't. Has it been in there for like 20 minutes at least?
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, what do you think?
Yeah.
You think it's ready?
Not just a couple minutes.
Okay.
And the cheese will be browned, yeah.
Okay, so she
Absolutely.
says, okay, so it'll be just a couple of minutes. Well, maybe we'll hold on for a couple of minutes if you don't mind.
Yeah, because if the ingredients are already warm,
Okay.
pretty much you just bring it together.
Which means, gosh darn, I'm just going to have a spoonful of these apples and ice cream right now. What a shame.
Are you going to survive?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you going to make it?
Oh.
You going to be okay?
I think I made diet ecstasy right now. Oh, man. If you haven't done this before, please, oh, man, you know what they say? I really hope you give this a try. Well, I really hope you give this a try. This is, quite frankly, fantastic. And I don't know if I'm biased because oh, yeah, you could do it with pears, too. I don't know if I'm biased because I made it myself, but I hope not.
Peaches, too.
All I know is that, yes, and peaches, too. Well, that's how they make peach cobbler. But, oh, man, the ice cream and apples, of course, with just a bit of tang from the rum. At this point, all we have to do is hold on for about another minute or so, and then at least we'll be able to show our finished creation here. For anybody who is nice enough to stick around, I thank you very, very much. Oh, man. Sure you didn't want to try a spoonful of this? I'll take that as not yet. Oh, these apples still have a little bit of bite to them too. They're nice and soft, but they don't just, they're not mush. Oh, this is perfect, quite frankly. And the nice part as well is that this really didn't cost very much. A few apples, some sugar, just a splash of rum, and a scoop or two of ice cream. Man, this is fantastic. Okay, but now I've spoiled myself enough. I think it's time to spoil all of you who were kind enough to wait here all of this time. So let's take a look at our Tater Tot Casserole and see what we've got. Oh, well, it's hot for one thing. In fact, I'm going to have to get another oven mitt. But nonetheless, the cheese is definitely melted. So see what you think, folks. This is way hot, of course, and this is going to have to cool off, but nonetheless, I'd say we've got ourselves a nice tater tot casserole here. And with that, I think we can end this now, because it is still going to have to take a while for it to cool off, and then we will enjoy ourselves. I've done my best to entertain you folks, and again, I can only hope everybody does enjoy this. Need to walk to the supermarket for apples. Ooh, rhubarb would go nice with that. So, all I can say at this point, though, is thank you very much for watching, and I hope your dinner this Friday night is, well, as good as this, and preferably even better. See you all on the Cast Iron Cooking Group, folks. Thank you once again.